Fishing News is sponsored by these fine partners.
For more than 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing, that nothing says no to fish bites.
Well, I trust you had a wonderful 4th of July holiday weekend. Big thanks to the weather folks in Philadelphia and New York for doing a bang-up job again with Saturday's forecast. You know, I'm still thinking that these forecasts out of the city, you know, they should have a little scrolling message at the bottom that says, warning, these forecasts should not be used for accurate reporting purposes. I'm Jim Hutchinson with a New Jersey, Delaware Bay edition of the Fisherman magazine. It's July 7th, 2022. And I'll tell you what, it sure seemed like with the traffic on Tuesday, a lot of folks leaving the Jersey Shore juiced Monday for everything it was worth. Traffic was terrible on Tuesday. But if you're heading back to the shore this weekend and next weekend, especially if you're coming down from the Philly area, make sure you get off the expressway at the Cross Keys Berlin Road exit 41. Stop down here to see the folks at Bait and Hook Tackle Shop in Sicklerville. It's just a few miles to the north of that exit. But they have everything that you need. Freshwater stuff, the freshwater gear, the baits, the reels, the rods, and also salt water as well. They'll put you in to the game in freshwater and salt wherever you fish. And of course, they've got a great selection of new canoes as well. So if you want to get into some canoe or kayaks, new canoe kayaks. That one always confuses me. New canoe kayaks. They're great. Take a look at them. Beautiful seats. These are definitely for big boy fishing if you want to get into that. If that happens to be your game. And of course, if hockey is your game and the Flyers happen to be your team, stop by Bait and Hook for all the information on how you can fish with Hall of Fame goalie Bernie Parent on Friday, July 15th. That's an event to help support the Ed Snyder Youth Hockey and Education Group. The trip aboard the Atlantis out of Miss Chris Marina, it includes a poolside barbecue afterwards back there at the Canyon Club. You'll also meet play-by-play guy Jim Jackson, the Flyers there. Go to BernieParentFishing.com for all the details on fishing with the Vezina Trophy winner, the Hall of Famer, the former Broad Street bully, Bernie Parent, next Friday in Cape May. Now the reports, the actual fishing reports we're getting out of Bait and Hook this week tell us that the Kingfish bite from the surf and jetties has been fantastic from Atlantic City down to about the Sea Isle areas. Anglers are using bloodworms, bits of clam, fish bites, bag of worms, and finding really good success. As a matter of fact, there are also some small weakfish along some of the Cape May County jetties that are taking some of those smaller baits. While I was in here today at Bait and Hook, I was talking to one guy, an angler stopping in here to get a new reel. We were talking about the triggerfish bite at some of the Cape May County jetties a couple of weeks ago. Last week it was solid, but it seems like some of that south wind comes up and lowers the water temperature. He said coming back the next day, they only had a couple of them. In fact, I talked to Dennis Huber, he and his son Tommy out of Riptide. You know Tommy from Riptide Bait and Tackle. They've been doing a little bit of spear fishing offshore. Dennis said that the wreck where they were in about 75 feet of water was paved with fluke, but nobody's getting any bites. So I think it's because of that cooler water temperature. So if we get some of that upwelling where that cooler temperature is there, the bite is not there, and you think, oh, the fish aren't here. Well, I'll tell you what, just monitor those water temperatures, and all it takes is a little bit of a change in the wind direction, a little bit more from the east, northeast, as opposed to the south. Water temperatures warm up down there along those wrecks, and maybe you'll get an even better bite outside on the fluke. Now, we are still getting reports of summer flounder out back behind the shore in Atlantic and Cape May County along the edges and the main channels, of course. Sheepshead are also hanging tight to the structure, but not just the bridge abutments, also smaller pieces of structure like those old piers, pilings, and the riprap. Now, Co-Win, he let me know that there are some solid sheepshead to be found, and not just in Atlantic and Cape May County either, as well as down into Delaware. But Co said that Cole's double-digit convict fish was taken somewhere a bit tad north. This is an 11-pound fish that Costa was in your neck of the woods, Jim. So I'm thinking maybe Great Egg, Little Egg Harbor, something like that, or Great Bay and Little Egg Harbor. But we're getting a few reports too from a little bit farther north of that, up into the Barnegat Inlet area as well, which includes our thumbnail image of this week, which comes to us care of Fisherman's headquarters on LBI. Now, in terms of those sheepshead, just really becoming almost more of a prolific fishery and an absolute target for people in Central and South Jersey. Last summer, I sat down with the sheepshead maestro, Dan Schafer of Insomniac Guide Service, Bottom Sweeper Jigs, to talk a little bit about what he looks for in terms of targeting sheepshead. Very similar with those crab jigs to targeting tog as well. But I did ask Dan perhaps what it is about these fish and what we should look for in terms of targeting them.
What I'm looking for typically is a rushing tide. A lot of people may fish around the slack tide for tautog, and that's very good. Their tails are built different. The tog's tail is very round. Sheepshead has a forked tail. They're built more like really like a striped bass. So what they're going to do is, during those slack tide periods, the sheepshead can be around the bridge itself. They can be digging for lady crabs, also known as calico crabs. They can be doing lots of things. As the tide progresses and the tide gets faster and faster and faster, it pulls them into the pilings because there's crabs coming through the water column towards the bridge or towards the jetty. And what those crabs are going to do is they're going to grab onto something. They're going to grab onto a piling. And these sheepshead will just go around in these high current areas and look around those pilings for things. They may spend a moment. Sheepshead can take a tremendous amount of current. They can be on the front side of a piling in a 3-knot current, and you can see them eating to where you can't present to them, and the current's not affecting them at all. It's really, really amazing. So what we do is we take the smallest lee of that piling, and even yesterday we're using 1/4 ounce. So we're dropping down that 1/4 ounce in the tiniest little lee there is, and then getting down 3 feet, 6 feet. The nice thing about a rushing tide is that it just pulls the fish higher. The crabs will tend to be on the surface versus in the water column as they're coming towards the bridge. And you don't need to be that deep or to use that much weight. Another thing is too, these fish will eat anything. We had sea angels in the Back Bay, which is a variation of a shellless snail. And one sheepshead we caught ended up throwing up about 200 of these things. And they had been back here for weeks, these sea angels. And so it just goes to show you that anything that comes to the water column's fair game.
So not just those bridge abutments, but also maybe some of those longer, taller wooden markers along the ICW or in some of those back bays. Now, I did mention the Back Bay fluke, flounder, if you will, but waters are warming and action is starting to heat up on those reef sites, depending on the water temperature down below. But we are getting some good reports still as those fish start to move out through the inlets. I know this past weekend wasn't the best time of year, best time of the season to be drifting through the inlets with some of the traffic, but if you get the opportunity during the week to do so, you might have better opportunities to score some flukes, some keepers in those slot ranges inside some of the local inlets. Captain Brett Taylor, Real Reaction Charters, he was out on Wednesday. He told me the Jigging Gulp produced 10 keepers in Barnegat Bay. Yeah, that's out back in just a few hours, including a 6.5 pounder from Mike Hoffman in Barnegat Inlet. And like I said, inlet fishing on the weekends tends to be a little bit more difficult with everybody moving in and out of the inlet to go to the offshore grounds, but it's definitely a better chance for you to get out there and score some fish during the middle of the week. I actually was stupid enough to think on Monday that a lot of the boat traffic was going to be gone in the afternoon, so I paddled out in northern Barnegat Bay. It was like paddling around in a washing machine, and I got nothing but short fluke to show for it. Now, if you are pressing off the beach for the flatties, don't forget, in New Jersey, you now have, as far as July 1st, that opportunity to get a couple of sea bass in as a bycatch. The return of the summer bycatch sea bass. You get 2 of them throughout the rest of the summer. Skylarker Captain Steve Spinelli was proud of young Aubrey here for this pool winner. Now, I know Steve and the other headboat skippers all along the Jersey Shore are quite thrilled to be able to have a couple of sea bass to put back in the box when you're out there drifting along for those flatties as well. Way to go, Aubrey. Beautiful fish right there. We're waiting for some of the surf reports on bonita or Spanish mackerel. Nothing concrete yet, but with all these other critters showing up, the sheepshead in the back, the kingfish out front, a few triggers in the mix, we hope only a matter of days before we get some of those hardtails in. There are tog being reported along some of the jetties. I spoke to Captain Dave DeGennaro of High Flyer out of Barnegat this week. He says he's been floating some worms along the jetties for stripers. You can't keep the tog off the hook. So we don't have that tog action again until August. And that's, of course, when you also have that mix when you're working some of those sedges or rock piles in the back of getting some tog and sheepshead as well. Of course, almost needless to say, you have plenty of pockets of good fluke up and down the coast, the Jersey Shore, as well as down along the Delaware ocean front as well. And a lot of folks, too, are coming around to sand crabs in the summer surf to catch some of those resident striped bass that are swimming between the jetties. Now, for those that don't think those line sides are there when we get into the summer, well, they are. In fact, 5-year-old Timmy Barisha, he checked in with a 33-incher there at Charlie's. That was taken from the surf at Chadwick Beach just the other day. Now, go to thefisherman.com, search for this, Crunchy Munchies, sand crabs for summer stripers. We've had several articles over the last few years that are now published at thefisherman.com on using sand crabs or sand fleas or mole crabs in the summer surf for striped bass. Alan Riley wrote this one up back in 2019. We'll introduce you to a relative act of simplicity in terms of baiting up in the summer surf using some of those sand crabs. Oh, by the way, too, Alan also has an article in the latest edition, the July edition of the Fisherman magazine, New Jersey, Delaware Bay. You can find that copy at your local newsstand, your Wawa, bait and tackle shops throughout the Garden State. Look for the topwater tuna on the glossy cover of that July edition. And Alan's advice for surf fishing for fluke, summer flounder, if you're in South Jersey, that starts on page 14. Some great advice. There is, of course, plenty to digest in that July edition of the Fisherman magazine. Inshore, offshore, high-tech scouting, hot spots, and of course, freshwater. We've got some offshore reports in about 90 seconds, but for a full freshwater report, let's check in with my friend George Schauer, the Pocono Outdoors guy.
Well, hey, thanks, Jim. You know, we're definitely setting up that summertime pattern. Here we are, first week in July, and temps are starting to get in that typical summertime pattern, you know, warm days, cool nights. Now, those bass, you know, they're going to find them in cover. We're starting to get that high sun. Look for that cover. Get them on the drop-offs with those jigs. Lots of great fish in there. One of the things that's going to start to develop, what I like, is that thermocline here in the summertime. That's when that warm water sits on top of a layer of cool water that's usually down between 15 and 25 feet. Depending on the lake. That's where those big freshwater stripers hide, and that's what I'd like to go after. So guys want to check that out as well. Also, you can check out some of these cool mountain streams. You know, my friend Charlie Roberts was out there in some of the Pocono streams here, the Broadhead Creek, McMichael's Creek, and you can get some trout still. That water is still cold enough to just be careful though on the release. If you plan on keeping some for the table, that's fine, but if you're going to release them, just be careful, because as the temperatures rise, that mortality goes up. Now, if you guys want to talk a little bit of fishing, I'll be up at Hunter's Gallery in Lake Ariel this weekend. I'm going to talk everything fishing. They're having their customer appreciation weekend. Even guys like Roland Martin are going to be up there giving everyone some tips. So stop by Hunter's Gallery this weekend. It's July 9th and 10th, and I'll be up there. Come see Roland Martin. I'll talk to you about fishing as well. Guys, get out and do a little fishing. From Pennsylvania, I'm George, your Pocono Outdoors guy.
We'll have to see if we can get George on camera with Roland Martin. Give us some freshwater tactics for a video in the next couple of weeks. As mentioned, offshore reports for the Jersey Shore down along the Delaware coast. And here's your offshore weather forecast from NOAA Weather. Yeah, you can insert that little scrolling warning message at the bottom right now. As of Wednesday, things do look pretty good for Friday and Saturday in particular, from the Hudson to the Baltimore. But at this point in the season, don't think that you have to go all the way to the canyons to score big. Now, Bill Riley let us know that he and his brother Joe were out on their leprechaun in the days leading up to the 4th of July weekend, landed this 50-pound yellowfin on a sterling wide tracker, just a little northeast of the Bacardi. They did say that was it for the day, though. They took a little bit of travel and they ran through the tower area west of the Hudson, the west wall of the Hudson. But Bill said hopefully some clean water comes into the area soon. So that's really what we're hoping for. A couple of those fingers and pockets of warm water coming in close, bring some of those tuna in closer to the shore. Now, in our offshore report posted this week at thefisherman.com, epic tilefish action continues. That's how field editor Tom P. put it. In fact, Nicholas and Jeffrey Leonetti proved that. Caught a 48.9 pound golden last week on a deep drop trip. Now, there has been a rumor floating around about a potential record golden tilefish somewhere in Jersey. I have not heard this. At least I have not received any corroborating information on that. If you know about a potential record tilefish, do let me know. But I do know that as it stands today, the golden tilefish state record in New Jersey is a 63.5 pounder that was caught by Togger, Dennis Muhlenforth, back in 2009 out at the Lindy. Now, a little bit farther south from that at the Wilmington, the folks from Fanatics Marine Supply in Ocean City reported tilefish taking strips in the 900-foot depths with some swordfish feeding on jumbo squid down around 2,000 feet. 2,000 feet. So yeah, spool up, my friends, if you want to get in on that. Speaking of which, I do hope you offshore guys are geared up for that big Jimmy Johnson Quest for the Ring Offshore Championship next week. It's being held at the Golden Nugget, Farley Marina there in Atlantic City from July 10th through the 17th. Now, this is a big money, big game tournament. In fact, as I recall, Michael Jordan, basketball player, was out at Atlantic City for the Jimmy Johnson last year. Some beautiful boats. I know the Viking crew will be out there in full force. And maybe the GOAT's going to try to take down some of these hardcore Jersey fishermen. We shall see. I would expect him to be competing with our Jersey heavy hitters next week for marlin, tuna, wahoo, and dolphin, all next week along the Central and South Jersey offshore grounds. You can get all the details in that July edition of the Fisherman magazine, or just visit jjfishweek.com for all the registration information you need for that big game tournament. I'll tell you what. If you win a prize in the Jimmy Johnson tournament and you're standing on stage and Jimmy Johnson is giving you a prize, the first person that sends me a photo of them getting their prize from Jimmy Johnson and also simultaneously handing him a roll of Bounty paper towels, the first person, I'll give you $50 right there. I'll tell you. Right there. My man Ben Gilmore has an update for us from Costa Rica. Let's see what's happening out on the West Coast.
Hey guys, checking in from Costa Rica with this week's fishing report. This week we've had a wide open tuna bite really close to Capos, only 15 to 18 miles out. We've had tuna almost every day. Lots of fish in the 30 to 40 pound range, just some incredible fishing. Inshore, we got some big news. There was a world record snook caught here this week at the Marina Pez Vela. Congratulations to Captain Roy Zapata for an almost 44 pound snook caught on 6 pound line. Pending IGFA world record. Good luck with that one, guys. Also, we've had some sailfish. The sailfish bite's been really good this week. Would love to see you guys down here in Costa Rica. Hope to see you soon, and back to you.
Well, it is official as of this week that Mako moratorium is in effect as of Tuesday, July 5th. And it's going to be at least 2 more years, at least, before we're able to go out, catch a Mako, bring it home for steaks on the grill. This, of course, has been heavily reported at the Fisherman magazine going for the past year. But finally, NOAA Fisheries and the Commerce Department made the announcement just after we did our video last week. And effective Tuesday, July 5th, there is no more Mako retention anywhere along the Atlantic coast. Anywhere, short fin Mako, it's done everywhere. It was an ICAST decision. That means it was global. And finally, we are in with that closure as well. Also coming to a temporary close since we last spoke last week from Eyes on First Avenue, Atlantic Highlands, the Northern Area Trophy Fishery for bluefin tuna is closed now. Temporary closure. That is a subquota for fish that are 73 inches or greater, so that subquota has been met. You are back in school now, north of Great Egg Inlet. Large school, medium bluefin from 27 to less than 73 inches. So no more giants right now. We'll see if that opens back up again sometime later in the fall. But hopefully that bite, that bluefin bite, starts to materialize soon within the 20-mile range off especially the central and North Jersey coast like we've had in the last couple of years. We do have a smattering of yellowfin now reported on the mid-range ground, and I still remain optimistic for another banner summer season for tuna steaks here in our listening area. Now, a lot of this info is covered weekly in the Fisherman magazine. You subscribers, you don't just get the monthly print edition delivered, you get that weekly digital edition. That is a members only. Subscribers get access to the digital only version. It's behind the members only wall each and every week. So this 4th of July weekend may have delayed us a little bit, but this week's reports, this week's edition, it's now posted at thefisherman.com. Of course, your Fisherman membership also gives you access to the Dreamboat Fishing Challenge. When you're a subscriber, you catch a big fish, you go to one of our certified weigh stations, one of our tackle shops along the coast, have them certify your catch, send in the paperwork, and you could be driving away in a 23 Steiger Miami at the end of the season. And I would tell you that bluefish as a category is mostly wide open. We're starting to get some more solid reports. The headboats are sailing now looking for bluefish. There are a few bigger fish in the mix. It's really nice to see some of these boats now doing some of those night trips, real old school stuff. So take a look at that. But a good shot for you to take down our current leader, New Jersey's own Dean Paolela, who is up front at the top of the Dreamboat leaderboard. I'm wishing you luck, Dean. I'm wishing everybody in New Jersey, Delaware Bay edition, a good luck fishing in that tournament. We haven't had a New Jersey champion in quite a few years. Maybe this is the year. I'll leave you this week with an update on the Fisherman's contest standings.
And here are the standings as of May 7th for the Dreamboat Fishing Challenge. There is slight movement in total points for the top 3 contestants due to new entries in Sea Robin and Fluke, but no changes in position. First place is Dean Paella with 21 points. Second place is Rob Carazano with 18 points. Third place is Garrett Weir with 16 points. Fourth place is Daniel Del Rosario with 10 points. We did see a new first place Sea Robin entry from James Batsler from Mastic, New York with a monster 3.7 pound fish. In the fluke category, Matt Goodwin of West Islip, New York entered a 9.44 pound flatty. Lara DiLorenzo Sims from Milford, New Jersey weighed in a 8.94 pound fluke, and Jerry Zordon from Torrington, Connecticut entered a 8.64 pound fluke. The Dreamboat Fishing Challenge is a Fisherman subscriber-only multi-species fishing competition with a chance to win a new Steigercraft 23 Miami powered by Yamaha, along with many other great prizes. Visit thefisherman.com to subscribe and get all the details so you can be part of the action.
This week, it was all about the striped bass, and we had 2 big ones entered. The first was a 47-incher caught by Bob Wagner on July 3rd. That was good enough for 3rd place in the category. And then we had a new competitor hit the board. That was Paul Stanford with a 48.5-incher, also caught on July 3rd. Must have been a good day for stripers. That gives him first place in the category and 3 points. We did take a few points away from the overall leader, Justin Oser, who now has 11 points, still leading the competition. Mike Radzaszewski is holding down second with 4 points, and there's a whole armload of you guys out there with 3 points. But there's still a long way to go in this thing. Lots of fish to be caught. Good luck out there, and we'll see what happens next week.
Remember, Flyers fans, stop by Bait and Hook this week for info on how you can fish with Flyers great Bernie Perrant and play-by-play man Jim Jackson. That's coming up on July 15th in Cape May. Now, I plan on reporting to you next week from somewhere in Atlantic City. Until then, catch them up, stay safe, and keep plenty of ice in those coolers because those weather forecasters are calling for a hot one coming up. See you next week.